All right, what's going on, guys? It's Luke here. Today, we're going to run through a weekly outlook at how I'm going to be trading the week of February 2nd to the 6th, 2026. We're going to go through my NQ chart, what I have marked out, my ES chart, and then we're going to look over the news. Pretty eventful week. We have a ton of red folder news coming up this week, so should be a good one. And let's get right into this. So let's start off on the higher time frame and kind of work our way down. So on the monthly, we're obviously still maintaining bullish order flow. The monthly candle just closed. We had a bullish close, but we did put in this wick to the upside. We actually swept out the previous month's high, but really not too much significance on the monthly still right now. Going over to the weekly, as you can see, if you guys watched my last weekly outlook, I said to watch out for this buy side leading into this daily gap, which is exactly what ended up happening. Now for weekly draws and liquidity right now, what I have marked out is going to be this weekly low down here, previous week's low, previous week's high, and then we have all-time high obviously up there. Just because it's in range, I'm still going to keep it marked out. And as you can see, we do have this weekly low, this weekly low. I'm not worried about that right now, but if we do get a bearish move to the downside, we can really run through a lot of higher time frame sell side liquidity, but I'll get into that in a minute. But going over to the daily, okay, what did we do this week? Let's start on Monday. We had a push up. We swept out all that buy side. Like I mentioned, we tapped right into that daily gap and we got a strong rejection to the downside. And as you can see, we inverse this daily bullish fair value gap, which I marked out as a daily inverse. So I'm going to show you guys what I have marked out again. I have weekly low right here, previous week's low. I have this inversion marked out just like as a potential retest area. I have previous week's high, this daily high, and all-time high. That's what I have marked out right now on my charts. But again, price ran up throughout the week, tapped into that daily gap, swept out all that buy side, tapped into this imbalance, boom, sold off. That's exactly kind of one of the scenarios we talked about. It was just a very obvious scenario, and it was pretty clear that it was probably going to want to play out. Going over to ES now, let's look at my ES chart. Monthly close was a lot stronger bullish compared to the NQ close, and we know that because ES has been leading. We obviously put in new all-time highs, and NQ hasn't done that, so we technically still have that bearish SMT in quotes playing out, but as we know, it's not really like that. ES was just kind of the leading index, but as you can see, ES I have marked out obviously previous week's high, which is our all-time high, previous week's low, and then I have the weekly low down here. Going over to the daily, as you can see, the daily was maintained a little bit more bullish on ES. As you can see, we failed to inverse this daily gap. We closed within it still. We put in a massive wick to the downside. And order flow still looks a lot more bullish on ES. So this is going to be something to watch out for. We're going to really want to see what ES wants to do with this daily fair value gap. So I'm going to go back over to NQ and I'm going to talk about some potential scenarios. So like I said, all right, you could clear this. Honestly, you don't really need this. But as you can see, order flow still technically looks pretty bullish. Like we did make a move up, we made a move down, and I'm really not going to be super bearish until we start trading below the previous week's low. But one thing to watch out for is ES holding this gap. So this is going to be one of those signs where you see one of them inverts and the other index holds the gap, and then they both move off of that gap. So this could be a potential scenario where ES just wants to break to the upside and just continue back to the upside, or both can just continue to flush. We're really going to have to pay attention to see what ES wants to do in this gap. So again, I'd be watching this heavily and seeing how market opens up Sunday, and seeing if we want to rotate back to the upside or we want to just continue to flush lower. Personally, I would like ideal scenarios that we do get a flush lower. We can potentially see continuations lower, but again, it's really going to depend on what ES wants to do in this gap, because ES could easily pull NQ up with it. So going over scenarios, if price opens up, we go to the 4 hour, we really don't see too much right now. We are trending, obviously strong bearish. We had a 4 hour inversion. Price is trending bearish. We're also trading very near the Thursday low right here. So scenario number one is we catch continuations to the downside. We obviously catch continuations to previous week's low, and obviously this could serve as a potential reversal area. And the reason why, let's just say NQ comes down and sweeps out the previous week's low and ES does it. That could be a potential bullish SMT formation that could push price back higher to the upside. Again, if ES continues to potentially hold bullish here, NQ comes down, sweeps out the previous week's low, we get continuation shorts down, and then we can look for SMT longs kind of back to the upside. That could be a potential scenario that we could watch. So what we're going to have to do is really pay attention to how we react if we do reach down to the previous week's low. If we come down to the previous week's low, we get an SMT, we see strong recovery, then yes, we can obviously look for longs back up towards this daily inversion, or back towards previous week's high, right? But if price comes down, and we displace through the previous week's low aggressively, then I'm going to be looking for continuations down to these weekly lows and potentially below down to these ones and these ones and these ones, because at that point is where I'm getting really bearish. The thing is, you want to look for continuations when you displace above or below a high or low. So if we come down, like I said, first sell side target is obviously going to be this previous week's low. Second major sell side target is obviously going to be these weekly lows. If we come down and sweep this previous week's low, we show strong recovery, we get an S&T, then we can obviously seek longs up towards this daily inverse and back up to previous week's high. But if we trade below this previous week's low and we aggressively displace, then we can seek continuations down to at least these weekly lows. And if we displace below those, then we can look for these lows and keep going potentially from there until we show recovery. So those are my bearish scenarios. I'm really going to be paying attention to see if we can get continuations lower towards previous week's low and then see how price reacts off that previous week's low. If we want to recover, okay, we can seek, longs back to rebalance that leg to the downside or back to the upside. But if we displace through the previous week's low, then I'm going to be seeking continuations lower towards the weekly low. Now, bullish scenario. Let's say ES opens up this week and it just shows crazy bullish strength and it just starts to rip to the upside. Now, what can we expect NQ to do? Well, we can drop obviously to our lower time frames. We could see a strong recovery. We could look for continuations towards that inverse fair value gap. And then if we get above that, obviously we can see continuations higher towards that previous week's high. So that's pretty much the only real bullish scenario. So I'm going to run through those two scenarios again. Bearish scenario. We look for continuation shorts towards previous week's low. We see how price reacts off that previous week's low. If we show strong recovery, we get an SMT, whatever, then we can look for longs, back to the upside. If price comes down, we catch our short, we look for continuations toward previous week low, but we displace below it, then my bias is shifting very bearish, and I'm going to be looking to seek out these weekly lows, okay? Those are my bearish scenarios right now. Again, paying close attention to how ES is reacting off that daily bullish gap. If ES opens up bullish and we show strength to the upside, then obviously I'm going to be looking to seek this inversion and potentially up, towards previous week's high. I don't really have a strict bias, although I am favoring downside first. I would ideally like to see a flush lower and then kind of make our decisions from there on the higher time frame. But as you can see, the 4 hours bearish, 1 hour's bearish right now. And also what I'd be watching this wick low right here, like this could be something maybe we manipulate below that, but we'll have to pay attention. But those are kind of my scenarios right now. These are what I have the draws marked out on my charts. So if you guys want to copy those draws, that's exactly what I have marked out. And let's get into the news, and I'll tell you guys how I'm approaching every single day, day by day. We do have an eventful week. So starting off on Monday, we have ISM manufacturing PMI. So this is 10 a.m. news. As you guys know, if you guys have seen my outlooks, basically the way I approach 10 a.m. news is I try to look for a quality setup between market open and like 9:50. If I don't see anything by 9:50, then I wait for 10 a.m. news to play out. I give it a couple minutes to kind of do its thing, and then I'll look for trades from there. But Monday will be a normal risk, normal trading day. Again, looking for setups between 9:30 to 9:50. If nothing, I'll wait for 10, wait for news to play out for a couple minutes, give it like 5 minutes, whatever, and then make a decision from there and see if we catch anything from there. Going over to Tuesday, same exact protocol as for the 10 a.m. news. Just this time it's JOLTS job openings, which should, again, bring some good volatility into the market. Wednesday, again, exact same thing. We have 8:15 news and we have 10 a.m. news. So same exact 10 a.m. news protocol. And we're going to be trying to make sure that we're marking those data wicks. So always keep an eye on those because those are going to be, prominent draws and liquidity for both these news events. Going over to Thursday, these are my favorite type of days, 8:30 news, because sometimes you get good data wicks to trade with, you got good volatility in the market, and you don't have to worry about upcoming news coming up, so you could just kind of trade freely at market open. So Thursday, I'll be trading freely at market open, ready to go, and normal risk. Going over to Friday, we have NFP at 8:30, and then we have consumer sentiment and inflation expectations at 10 a.m. So personally, on Friday, I'll probably slightly be de-risking just because it is NFP. I usually try to de-risk slightly sometimes on NFP. So I'll be trading same exact 10 a.m. protocol, waiting for the news to play out if we have to, otherwise looking for something before, but I'll slightly be de-risking, not like full de-risking like crazy, but I will be dropping the risk a little bit on the Friday to end the week off. But that's it for me, guys. Again, this is my chart right now. Should be a good upcoming week. Excited for this week. Start off February strong. And that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.